Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our series, Growing Together. I'm Stephanie Grunenfelder, Senior Vice President of the American Peanut Council. One of the goals of the APC is to create opportunities to connect with members and offer value that makes our industry stronger. And with that goal in mind, we've developed this webinar series. Today, we're pleased to share top-line results from a study that was undertaken by the APC to better understand consumer perceptions of peanuts and peanut butter in Europe. In Europe, we're using the definition loosely. We're including countries such as Norway, Switzerland, and the UK that are not part of the official European Union, but are part of this study. This region is the largest import market for peanuts in the world. Food manufacturers there import peanuts from all origins, including the United States. And APC conducted the research you're about to learn more, or that you're going to learn more about today, to better support our trade partners in the region. And it is my pleasure today to introduce our speaker, Brad Rose. Brad is a partner at Rose Research LLC, one of the foremost marketing research firms in the country, specializing in state-of-the-art techniques, including AI, or artificial intelligence, and hybrid techniques combining qualitative and quantitative methods. And over the past 30 years, Mr. Rose has worked with hundreds of agri-groups and packaged food goods marketers, covering brand identity, brand positioning and strategy, advertising, testing, tracking, consumer attitudes and usage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I've known Brad for many, many years. He is now living in Florida, and we're a little bit jealous as we're dealing with snow here. But anyway, with that, we'll turn the floor over to Brad to share the information about the consumer research. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, everybody. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be able to speak with you and to share some data with you. I'm going to share my screen in a few minutes and take you through some findings of a pretty robust study that we did in Europe. As Stephanie said, we did this work in 8 different countries. We collected a tremendous amount of consumer feedback, and we also spoke to some key influencers in Europe, social media, people with a social media presence in the health and nutrition sphere. Also folks who are big promoters of peanuts as well, which rounded out our findings. So we've got a lot of information to share. I'm not going to rush through it, but I will make sure that we get through everything, and I'm happy to answer any questions once the presentation is done, and please feel free to contact me if we don't get through all those questions today. So let's see here about sharing my screen, and I'm going to do that now. And let's see here. Okay, so I want to share the entire screen. All right, Stephanie, I may have to ask you already to help out here because I'm having some technical issues on my end. So for whatever reason, it's not allowing me to share once I hit that. So if it's okay with you.
Now I'm muted.
So
can you see the slides?
I can see the slides. Yeah, we're all the way at the end. So if you can just pull up to the beginning and just hit the start show, I will let you know when we need to just go to the next slide, if that's okay. All right, so we'll go to the next slide since I've already introduced myself, and I'll let you know how the study was conducted in terms of our background and purpose and the methodology of the project. So Stephanie, if we could go to the next slide, please, I appreciate it. So as I said, we did a robust examination of consumers throughout Europe. We did just over 8,000 consumer interviews in total. We did roughly 1,000 interviews, or at least 1,000 interviews in each of the countries: the UK, Germany, Italy, France, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. We interviewed primary grocery shoppers, men and women who were 18 years of age or older. We did screen them to ensure they lived in middle to upper income earning households. And we did also screen to ensure that they had purchased peanuts and or peanut butter in the past year, so that we were bringing in a sample of respondents who were well versed with the product and could give us the type of information that we were looking for in terms of attitudes, usage, perceptions, and strategy. Steph, can we go to the next slide? So the survey was
Can you,
diagnostic. It was,
before you go on
yeah, I'm
any
sorry.
further, Brad, can you let me know if you see the whole screen or the,
I'm seeing the whole screen right now. I'm good.
okay, not the presenter view?
Correct. I'm all set. So the survey
Okay,
was very diagnostic. Yep, I'm all set. This consumer survey lasted roughly 40 minutes, so we got an awful lot of information from them. These are just highlights. So we do have a full report that Stephanie and her team have. We also, as I mentioned, did interviews among key influencers, some folks who were identified by the APC and some who we got from our own database. We did 12 interviews with that group. They were what we call IDIs, in-depth one-on-one interviews, very conversational. So those lasted about 45 minutes as well. So now we're going to get into some of the data, and we're going to start with just some background, or if you will, if we can go to the next slide, Stephanie, some category data on peanuts and peanut butter. Okay, so then one more slide, please, if that's okay. So like I said, we're going to get into some general category information here. Now, we're going to see a lot of positive data throughout this, but we're also going to notice that there's a lot of opportunities. As I mentioned, the respondents were screened to ensure they had bought peanuts and or peanut butter in the past year. Not surprising, the vast majority have bought peanuts. They do, though, peanut purchasers also buy many other different types of nuts. And especially we'll see in Italy, where you see that levels are high. That's the gray bar there. Italians buy lots of different nuts, more so than in most any other country, most likely due to the Mediterranean diet over there. But we do see that peanuts are certainly well positioned in terms of being, the decision set among consumers. So if we can go to the next slide. That will show us in terms of which nut they are buying most often. We see again that in, I believe, 6 out of the 8 countries that we surveyed, peanuts were in fact the type of nut that the individuals buy most often. Again, showing their popularity. As I mentioned before, in Italy, we see that they buy lots of different nuts. So in Italy, they're basically just as apt to indicate that they were buying almonds, mixed nuts, as they are peanuts. So just a little bit of some different data there. And in Finland, peanuts were on par with cashews as being the nut, the nut of first choice, so their favorite nut, the one they buy the most. If we can go to the next slide, Stephanie, we're going to get into some purchasing behavior in terms of peanut purchase frequency. We're going to see that peanuts really are a staple in the diet. At least half of the respondents in every country reported that they buy peanuts once a month or more often. Now, I'm just going to put this in context for a second. We do a lot of work for a lot of other MAP funded cooperators. And while everything we do is proprietary, we have worked in this category before, and we've not seen these numbers in terms of purchase frequency being this high, or having consistently in all countries, at least half of the respondents saying that they buy this item once a month or more often. So just again, some information to help put these findings into context. Very positive here in terms of purchase frequency. If we can go to the next slide, I believe we're going to be talking now a little bit about nut butters and how peanut butter comes into play. And in terms of nut butters bought in the past year, peanut butter, again, a popular entry, particularly in the UK, where 74% indicated they bought it in the past year. But we have roughly half in every country, with the exception of France, indicating that peanut butter was bought in the past year. We do see here, and we believe this is an opportunity long-term, that Nutella is the primary competitor for peanut butter in this category, in the spread category. If we can go to the next slide, I believe we get into purchase frequency here as well. We'll see that peanut butter, just like peanuts, is also, again, a shopping list staple. With the exception of consumers in Sweden and Finland, most or over half indicated that they buy peanut butter at least once a month or more. So again, good scores here. This is a category where people are invested and they are heavy. They tend to be heavy purchasers. A lot of people fall in that heavy purchaser bucket. If we can go to the next slide, please, Stephanie. So now we're going to break this out a little bit, and we're going to dig a little bit into, we separated our survey. So if a respondent bought both peanuts and peanut butter, we asked them which one they bought most often, and we took them through a battery of questions based upon whichever they purchased most often. Among those who bought peanuts and not peanut butter, we took them through a battery just of peanuts, and the opposite for those who bought peanut butter. So we're going to be doing some deep dives now into peanuts, into the peanut category, and then we'll be doing the same thing for peanut butter. So we asked a question, what's the number one reason for consuming peanuts, or why do people eat peanuts? Not surprisingly, their delicious or great taste came out on top in many places. That's the primary reason for eating peanuts. They're also perceived, and we look for this when we do any research project, we look for consistency. We saw also consistently throughout the data that peanuts are considered to be a very good snack. So people are consuming them because of their taste and because they're a snack, because of their ability to be eaten as a snack. People enjoy eating them in groups as well. But we do believe that there is, and the data will show this in some slides coming up, that there is potential to continue to more aggressively promote the health benefits that peanuts provide, in addition to what's already being done by the industry. As well as convenience and versatility in terms of educating consumers on the many different ways that peanuts can be enjoyed in addition to snacking. So again, we'll see that this theme comes up throughout our data. If we can go to the next slide, please, Stephanie. So in terms of how peanuts are used, again, as we said, we look to see, is the data consistent, in line with the previous findings? Consumers primarily tend to think of peanuts as a snack. They tend to use them as a snack. They also tend to serve them to guests or when entertaining. Using them, and we provided these answer choices to the response so they could check as many as applied to them. Using them as a healthy addition or as an ingredient today are comparatively low to snacking and to maybe entertaining as well. Again, we see those as opportunities because when I'm preempting myself a little bit when we see what some of the enticements are to encourage people to increase their use of peanuts, health and learning about new ways or different ways to use them come to the forefront. So if we can go to the next slide, please. As I said, so we asked consumers about the impact of the health benefits that they're aware of and how that impacts their decision to buy peanuts or not. And we see that despite, again, a lack of what we would consider to be heavy promotional support on this issue, again, the health message shouldn't be ignored. We know that the industry is doing a lot of work on this, but it really is truly, we feel, very important. And you can see here that the vast majority of consumers in every country indicate that the health information that they're aware of today that peanuts provides has a significant or some impact on their decision to buy the product. Now, when we asked consumers about their awareness of health benefits of peanuts, on an unaided basis, they have a difficult time playing back specific health benefits. Even when we aided them with a list of health benefits that peanuts provide, awareness at this time is relatively modest. I see that as an opportunity. The opportunity there is to continue to promote the health benefits, which we feel will lead to long-term increased usage of peanuts moving forward. If we can move to the next slide. So now, while consumers, we asked a couple of questions, and I've got a couple of questions here built into this slide. Consumers in general perceive nuts to be healthy. However, when we ask them to rate the various different entries, the various nuts from the healthiest to the least healthy, peanuts tend to be on the second tier of that. Behind almonds and walnuts in many cases, and certainly we see that there's a lot of room for growth here. As I mentioned before, very few respondents are able to spontaneously play back specific health benefits that peanuts provide. We know that this takes time. This is not a, this is not a short-term effort. This needs to be promoting health and specific health benefits needs to be consistent. And it certainly does take some time, and that if you will, momentum needs to take time to build and to grow. So we think that while you're already doing this, it's critically important to continue with the health messaging. If we can go to the next slide, please. So as I said before, we asked consumers what would encourage them to buy peanuts more often. And we asked this aside from having a lower price, because if we include price, and we have this in a slide later in the data, we know that most consumers, regardless of whether we're selling peanuts or we're selling an automobile or we're selling ink and toner for your printer, people want to get a good they don't want to spend as much money as they think as they need to. They always say that they like something to be cheaper. If we take price though out of the equation, we see here that health, knowing more about their health benefits and knowing more ways to serve them, certainly come to the forefront. We do have some people who say, if I like the way they taste, those tend to be the people who are not as heavy peanut purchasers. That came up more with the light purchasers regarding taste playback. And then we see if there were more top of mind over on the left side of this chart, as well as some sustainability information, which we'll get into later as well. But in our opinion here, the data is indicating to us that the two major things that would help the industry in terms of motivating consumers to be more inclined to purchase peanuts revolves around health and this idea of versatility, knowing more ways to serve them. We'll also see that the influencers will mention many of the same themes that the consumers do as we get a little bit later into our deck. So we can go to the next slide, Stephanie. In terms of perceptions of US peanuts, we also think that there's an opportunity here as well. In terms of perceptions, this is how do US peanuts compare to peanuts from other countries, from competitors like Argentina, like Brazil, like China. We see that there's a lot of room to grow here in terms of peanuts being better quality, peanuts from the US being considered better quality. Most consider them safe to eat. That's a great thing. But we do feel that over time, the quality message can be improved. And certainly we have an opportunity to communicate sustainability, which I know the industry is focusing on. Right now, most consumers tend to think that peanuts from the US are produced just as sustainably as peanuts from other countries. Again, I think we have a unique opportunity, especially with the work that's being done by the industry, to promote US peanuts, to promote the same sustainability of the US peanut industry as a means of further differentiating ourselves from our competitors. So if we can go to the next slide, we're now going to get into some peanut butter data. We're going to show you some findings from some similar questions that we asked about peanuts, but now we're talking to the peanut butter users. So if we can go to the next slide, Stephanie, and if I'm going too fast and anybody has any questions, I'm not going anywhere after I'm done presenting. I'm happy to answer any questions and share this data. So in terms of how peanut butter is being used, similar to peanuts, again, it's considered to be delicious and great tasting. But now consumers, in addition to using it as a snack, we see here that peanut butter is oftentimes primarily used as a breakfast spread. And we certainly, as I mentioned before, where we saw that Nutella is a competitor, we do think that there's an opportunity for peanut butter to differentiate itself from this other spread, certainly from a health standpoint and potentially from a versatility one as well. Again, we see here with peanut butter that right now current usage, thanks Stephanie, as a healthy addition to the diet, as an ingredient, those tend to be lower right now. And again, we think there's opportunity to move those numbers higher moving forward. So on the next slide, again, similar to peanuts, the impact of health benefits on their purchase decision. Again, while health might not be top of mind, the vast majority of the consumers play back to us that the nutritional benefits that they're aware of, again, have a significant or at least some of an impact on their decision to buy peanut butter. And that's positively. So again, we think that this is a differentiator for the industry versus this competitor in terms of Nutella, which I'm not an expert on. I know my children love it, but I would be hard pressed to say that it was healthier or offered more health benefits than peanut butter. All right, on the next slide, Stephanie, please. So again, similar, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but like I said, we do look for consistency when we're doing research, and we didn't need to see this with peanuts and peanut butter. But again, in line with data regarding peanuts, consumers in Europe would be likely or would be encouraged or motivated to buy peanut butter more often. And there's a typo here that we could clean up. Instead of peanuts, this is peanut butter. If they knew more about their health benefits and if they knew more ways how to use or how to serve peanut butter, using it in dishes, in entrees, as in baking, etc. Those are certainly key motivators that we see that can help the industry move more product. If we can go to the next slide, Stephanie. So now we're going to get into some strategy data. So we just talked a lot about behavior, about attitudes, about perceptions towards peanuts and peanut butter. We're not an advertising agency, but we have been doing this for a long time. We've worked with a lot of MAP funded cooperators, and we've also worked with a lot of Fortune 500 companies and lots of advertising agencies. So what I'm going to show you on the next slide, Stephanie, if we could go to the next slide, we expose the consumers to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different, if you will, positioning statements or potential strategies for the industry. And we exposed consumers to these, and we asked a number of different questions that we have got an extensive normative database on. We asked questions about, based upon these strategies, how likely would he be to buy peanuts? How different does this make peanuts seem to you? And how believable are the claims? So just to quickly go through these strategies, the top two are primarily health-driven strategies. Peanuts and peanut butter are a healthy snack. They're naturally cholesterol-free and packed with protein. Current research shows that a diet rich in plant foods can offer protection from chronic diseases like heart disease and cancer. Peanuts and peanut butter can be substituted for animal proteins, which are high in saturated fats and increase heart disease risk. I'm not going to read all of these, but you can see that, as I mentioned, the first two get into health. We get into the different forms that peanuts and peanut butter are available in, snacking, again, a little bit of health here with athletes and certainly energy and athletic performance. America with an origin message, one of the largest producers of peanuts and peanut butter with a wide range of brands. And then we get into just a brief sustainability message as well. So again, we expose the consumers in each country to all these strategies, and we ask them a number of questions. On the next slide, Stephanie, I wanted to show some data that we got back on these. So again, we ask questions about motivation, about uniqueness, and about believability. For time's sake, we didn't want to share all of those questions with you, but the data would have looked very much the same as it does here in terms of what statement did they like the best. And if we look at this and we kind of roll up the two health-driven statements, we see that those positioning statements were liked best among the consumers. And that's pretty much consistent in almost all the countries. In Denmark, we did see that the snacking message, and in Norway, the snacking message resonated more than other countries. But all in all, we see these two health messages, that they're naturally cholesterol-free with all these other specific benefits, and then the nutrient-dense message really resonate with the consumers. So again, this just shows, it continues to show the strength of the health message. You know, it's not, this health idea is not going anywhere. I will tell you that in our data, and we're going to be sending all of the data off to Stephanie and her team, we even saw we did a lot of what we call subgroup analysis. And when we tease out the data and we looked at respondents, the health messages raised were well liked by virtually every subgroup, but they resonated even with young and with old, with men and with women, with those who had children, etc. So it was very consistent in terms of the data that we saw there. If we can go to the next slide, Stephanie. So in terms of peanut butter, again, I'm kind of a broken record here. The two health messages were the ones that generated the highest motivation, uniqueness, and believability scores, and were also the ones liked the best among consumers. So again, when we're looking at peanuts and peanut butter, there certainly is still a lot of opportunity to continue to hit that health message and really, ingrain that into the consumer mindset. If we can go to the next slide, Stephanie. Again, it may seem like we ask the same questions over and over. We do that for a reason. They're not exactly the same questions. We try to get at similar themes in different ways, so that we can come back with a consistent message to our end client. So we talked about purchase motivators before. We showed consumers strategies, and we asked them again, what would encourage, if you were going out to buy something right now, what would make you most likely to buy peanuts? Again, here we did put pricing in, and we see that comes to the forefront. However, when you look a little bit deeper, again, reading about the health benefits of peanuts is certainly important. Reading about how to use them or seeing them in a recipe, inspiration on social media, all the things that are currently being done by the industry that we just need to continue to keep on doing, honestly. I believe, speaking with Stephanie and certainly with Louise, we're really on the right track from a messaging standpoint. We just need to continue to be consistent here. And on the next slide, so now I mentioned we also did some in-depth one-on-one interviews among key influencers in Europe. And those influencers were people who were defined as having a relatively large social media presence and having a social media following. We interviewed a total of 12. Some of them were given to us by Stephanie and Louise and her team over in Europe. And then we have a database of influencers that we reached out to as well. So there's a mix of some folks who are more active with APC and some who are less active, but certainly knew a lot about peanuts. So we'll share some of the findings with you. As I mentioned before, our interview with the advocates or with the influencers was very conversational. This is more, if you will, qualitative research, almost like doing a focus group or having a focus group type conversation. So we don't have percentages or numbers because we only spoke to 12 people. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to highlight some key verbatims or some key nuggets of information that these influencers came back to during the course of our interviews. So we asked them how they became an advocate for peanuts or peanut butter. Many of them were, not surprising, they're attracted to peanuts and peanut butter because they personally like it, like those two products. But when they began to dig into the topics of peanuts and peanut butter, they learned a lot more and became much more of, if you will, an influencer or an advocate. So they're looking to, and I just highlighted what I thought were some key words, promoting foods that contribute to health and that are cost effective and convenient. This came up a lot with the influencers, the idea that peanuts are cost effective and they're convenient and that they're well liked, different than other products. I always joke around that I'm not a broccoli eater, and the only way I'm probably going to eat broccoli is if a study comes out that says that broccoli is going to cure cancer. That may be the way to get me to eat broccoli. Peanuts, however, are a product that is liked by many already. So the influencers told us that it's not, if you will, a tough sled to get people to be more excited even to eat peanuts and peanut butter. So they were interested or intrigued by the nutritional profile, that it's a plant protein, specific, particularly with millennials these days and people moving to more plant-based diets, and having to get protein from other sources. Again, that attracts some of these influencers to peanuts and peanut butter as well. Some of them said that they don't think that many people have much of an idea on their own of the health benefits that they can get from incorporating peanuts and peanut butter into their diet. So that this is they're educating consumers. If we can go to the next slide, Stephanie. Specific health benefits that they associate with peanuts and peanut butter. Again, they consider it to a man and woman. These influencers all consider peanuts to be healthy. They say they're good for weight management. They promote satiety. We've seen that in some other research that we've done for other nuts. They talk about the fact that peanuts can reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, that they contribute they contribute nutrients to an unbalanced modern day diet. Again, yes, there are a lot of millennials who are moving towards plant-based diets, but there's also lots of, and we see this in emerging countries too, the proliferation of fast food, of processed food, and of people becoming generally less healthy, even though we've got this macro trend of everybody trying to want to live a healthier lifestyle. They're a convenient source of protein. They have essential vitamins and minerals, potassium and vitamin B. They're good for an active lifestyle. They're a natural whole food. These are all, again, ideas, themes that the influencers have latched onto in terms of how they associate peanuts and what they're trying to communicate to their audiences. And I think the industry should be taking a look at what these folks are doing, because they are certainly on top of things, and they're really at the forefront in terms of trends and what's going to be happening next with consumers and consumer diet. If we can go to the next slide, Stephanie. What makes peanuts or peanut butter stand out or unique? Again, this idea that it's cost effective, they're easy to find, they're well liked, they offer a lot of benefits. They have broader and more wide appeal than many other nuts. We saw this in the purchasing patterns that we saw earlier in terms of peanuts being bought more often than competitive nuts. So the influencers feel this way as well. They're readily available. They can be enjoyed almost anywhere. So this idea of convenience, a convenient, healthy snack. They're delicious. They're versatile. This to us should all be having us think about how we want to really package this product from a consumer strategic standpoint. If we can go to the next slide, please, Stephanie. In terms of perceived demand for peanuts and peanut butter, the nutritionists are perceiving an increased demand for peanuts and peanut butter. This actually is in line with consumer findings that we saw. We did ask the consumers whether or not they are buying more or less or about the same amount of peanuts and peanut butter over the past few years. And we saw that more consumers indicated they were buying it more often versus less often. The influencers say that they're seeing the same things, or they're hearing the same things from their followers. There's a rising awareness of the value of plant-based eating. Sustainability and environmental issues are becoming more mainstream. Peanuts will be well positioned on this front. Demand for peanuts and peanut butter can be increased through health research and promotion, focusing on convenient usage ideas. So I think there's an opportunity with millennials as they're moving away from meat-based protein and looking for plant-based options. I believe peanuts have an opportunity to become more in demand through the health benefits that they provide and their versatility. So we didn't provide any of this information to the influencers. They were interviewed, if you will, in a vacuum. We didn't share any. We shared a very little bit of our consumer research with them. We didn't share any specific data regarding health or versatility. This came organically from this group, and it very much matched what we saw from the consumers. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Stephanie, and I think we're almost done here. How peanuts and peanut butter compare to other nuts or nut butters in terms of their health benefits. They perceive, in general, the influencers perceive them to be healthy. They would like to see more information from the industry. We see that some of the same many nuts have been well researched regarding their health benefits. I'd have to say I'm more familiar with health research being done by other nuts, walnuts, almonds, and pistachios. I'd like to see more scientific peer-reviewed studies on peanuts. What they're telling us is they would love more information. So if we have it, we should be sharing it with these folks, and we should be sharing it with consumers. This really is an important information and is going to be actionable for the industry. This type of information and spending or putting more emphasis than you already are, but just putting a little bit more emphasis on it should pay back the industry very nicely. So if we can go to the next slide, Stephanie, um, we also wanted to ask about the importance of sustainability. And we asked this among the influencers. We did ask this among consumers as well. You know, this issue, if you ask 50 different people about the idea of sustainability, you may get 75 different answers from 50 people. We've been doing a lot of research, quantitative and qualitative, just on this idea of sustainability. We've been doing it in your category. We've been doing it for folks like the folks in the cotton industry, and certainly for packaged goods marketers as well. We see, not surprising, the influencers say that the concept of sustainability is becoming more and more important to consumers. They feel that it will become an even bigger issue, particularly among younger folks, millennials. There are some who indicate that when making food choices, consumers obviously still value taste and convenience over sustainability, but this idea of sustainability is not going away. And we know that you're doing work already on this issue, and you should continue to do that and continue to promote that to both consumers and to influencers. Again, they say it's growing in importance. There's certainly some confusion, but again, it's becoming more and more top of mind among consumers. And we've seen this whether we've asked consumers about the importance of sustainability when buying food, and even when buying clothing, it's becoming more and more important to them. So this theme of sustainability is not going anywhere, and I think the industry will be in good shape in terms of the work that you guys are doing. You should be ahead of the curve here. If we can go to the next slide, Stephanie, I guess we have one more slide, just some recommendations. I don't think any of this will shock anybody on the next page. Peanuts and peanut butter, very popular among European consumers. They're very popular among influencers. We think that the three opportunities that really provide that will be best for the industry moving forward are to continue doing what you're doing in terms of promoting health, being more aggressive in your health research and promotion. Consumers do believe that nuts in general are healthy. As I mentioned, peanuts seem to be second tier on this. There's a typo here. It should say almonds, walnuts, and pistachios in terms of peanuts being compared to those. But again, we should continue to promote that health message. Versatility, we know that you're doing that. You should keep doing it. Consumers want to know different ways to use peanuts. They're interested in using them in dishes. They're interested in using them in entrees. We saw that younger consumers, those with children, even men, are interested in learning more ways to use peanuts. While they love snacking on them, and we wouldn't suggest that we move away from snacking, they are looking for additional ways to use this product. Again, they buy it a lot, they eat it a lot, and they're interested in learning even more ways to do so. We also, again, think that there's an opportunity for the sustainability message. The APC, as we know, is already doing work on this. While it's not necessarily a top motivator today, it is becoming more and more important. It does also provide the industry, we believe, with a way of differentiating itself from other producers, other peanut producers. And that was the last slide that I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Yes, and you can just speak up or write your question in the chat. We have a question. Can you share your substantiation for health claims?
Don, if you don't mind me asking, can you just what exactly what would you like to know in terms of the health claims?
Well, there's some really, I think, powerful claims that you've mentioned that have driven some, strong responses from our consumers in Europe here. And, as a manufacturer of peanut butter and retailer of peanuts, I would want to have, the data, the science to support those claims, because those are strong medically linked claims that, could elicit, people to question those claims and could result in lawsuits. So you got to have the substantiation before a company's willing to make those claims. So I'd like to think that you wouldn't be studying them unless you had the substantiation behind them. I wonder if you could maybe send us a link to the data that you're referencing there. That'd be helpful. Thank you.
We can
Don,
do that, Brad, actually.
Okay, sure.
I think that the studies that we were referencing were conducted by the Peanut Institute, which is a partner of the APC. So Don, if you want to send me your email address, or we'll follow up. How's that?
Awesome, thank you.
There is another question in the chat, which is probably for Louise instead of for Brad, but I'll read it because it's important. Somebody asks, are consumers in Europe aware of aflatoxin and that the regulations are much tighter than in the US?
Good question. Probably not. The regulations are driven by the European Commission and the member states. I think if you said aflatoxin to most consumers, they wouldn't understand. But that's just me. Say, I don't have the research to back that up.
Louise, even in the open-ended questions that we had, I think we have a question there, in terms of dislikes about peanuts and concerns. We didn't see really that come up. If we did, it was at extremely low levels.
Thanks, Brad. I should probably add for Don regarding those health benefits. We're not pretending that we could use those statements across Europe. Europe has even stricter statements about what you can and can't say about different foods. So it was just really to get what consumers feel about the health benefits of peanuts.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for Brad? Really interesting, we've done work around the world and we find that consumers in most countries like peanuts. So the health message sort of gives people permission to eat something that they already enjoy, which is that's a nice marketing tool. I also want to make it clear to the people listening that APC does not conduct consumer campaigns. We conducted this research to use as a tool for customers who are actually doing the work in the field. So companies that are selling peanuts in these European countries that we're working with is who will be using this message, and we want to encourage them to use it as a tool for their marketing campaigns.
Stephanie, you said that we heard from the influencers too, was this idea of, people really do enjoy eating peanuts and the health benefits are there. They did say that they have to be enjoyed. Certainly you can't eat a whole bowl of them in one sitting, but
well, you can, but you probably shouldn't.
I've done that myself, but there are some caveats to that. But yes, eating them certainly in moderation does provide a lot of health benefits. And we've seen, because we've done work in the category, and not necessarily specifically for peanuts all the time, but we've seen this idea of, I would say 30 years ago, if we asked people if nuts in general, if they thought nuts were healthy, we would have seen a much different information. We've been doing some tracking studies in this category for about 25 years. And it's been really striking in terms of the way that the nut industry in general has really, if you will, repositioned itself to be thought of as a healthy product, as a source of protein, something that can reduce cholesterol, is heart healthy. Again, when we did a project 30 years ago for a different group in this category, the perception that the product was healthy was about 10%. And that's changed quite a bit over time. But we certainly have more opportunity to hit that health message.
as consumers begin to understand that fat is not evil, which has taken some time, but yeah. Well, I would say that this research certainly shows that peanuts are well positioned for how consumers are thinking about food in the future, both looking at sustainable food, plant-based food, nutritional food. So we're very lucky to be working in an industry that has so many positives going for it. We're about out of time, so maybe I'll call for one last request. If anybody has any questions for Brad, you can either write it in the chat or just unmute yourself and speak up. I think you answered everybody's questions. Just as a reminder, this session will be recorded and will be posted on our website in a couple of days. We appreciate you joining us for today's session, and we have another Growing Together webinar in February on sustainability, and we hope everyone will participate in that, and we'll send out some more information about that session. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.